Who's not coming down the track? Who's not coming down the track? It's a Nemo Street in red and white. Nemo Street in red and white. Ain't nothing finer in the red. Ain't nothing finer in the red. When the drunk are marching straight to bed. Come on!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Tonight we are starting a series that we're doing throughout the off season. We don't have a name for it yet. We have a few different names that we are testing out, but we don't have an exact name for it yet. But the premise is one of us is going to do research on different players throughout Georgia history for, well, different players at the same position throughout Georgia history and have an argument about who is the GOAT of that position. So we're going to go through the gauntlet of doing that at running back at some point. I feel like that's going to be the most difficult along with linebacker. So those will probably take a little bit of time. But before we get into that, how you doing? What are you drinking?
I am doing all right. Just getting ready to have 6 weeks off of work for paternity leave. Um, Here any day now. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But in the spirit of that, we don't have a ton of alcohol in the house right now, so I'm just drinking some
Fair,
water.
yeah.
What about you?
Um, Doing pretty good. I recently, if y'all didn't think I'd get any more nerdy white guy, um, started dyeing some discs recently.
Yes.
And I'll send you some pictures, Caleb, but pretty dope, to be honest. Like my first couple of tries, I did a lot better than I thought I would. Um,
Okay.
so pretty excited about that. But I got that little station set up over to the right in the office here. I'm just drinking some regular Buffalo Trace tonight. Did not realize that I was all blacked out in a hoodie where when I look down, half of my face disappears because the beard just goes right into the hoodie color. So if you're watching on YouTube, that's my bad. I will try not to wear this hoodie, but it is brand new and super comfortable, so forgive me. All right. So Caleb did all of the research for this episode. I opened up the outline for like 30 seconds earlier today. So I don't know anything. Caleb is convincing me who the GOAT is for Georgia in the quarterback position, is what we're talking about tonight. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, we then and we'll have a proper discussion here because I haven't made a decision of my own. Figure we'll go back and forth and come to a consensus, or at least say it's one of these guys, depending. So I'm spoiler alert. I feel like this is going to come down to how we look at what greatest of all time for Georgia means,
Yeah.
because there's a couple of guys on this list that had really really great NFL careers but didn't accomplish as much at Georgia as they went on to do in the NFL. And then there's also a couple of guys on this list who did some really, really great things for Georgia, but they didn't have much of a career after Georgia so far.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to figure out what we prioritize as we talk through it. But I narrowed it down to five, which is really, really hard to do. But I figure if we're going to be doing this in a podcast format, we're going to have to narrow these down somewhat. Running back, we might have to bump it up to 10 because there's just so many to get through. But I wanted to start by talking about some of the guys I did not include in that top five, just because other guys felt like they had a bit more of a case to fit into one of those two camps that we're talking about here. So David Green, I'm a big fan of David Green. I know everybody who grew up at the time we grew up is a big fan of David Green. I hated not putting him in here. But he just didn't quite have those credentials. But he is DJ Shockley too is in my heart on this list. He was the starting quarterback when I really really dove into Georgia for the first time and started really really investing. So it hurt not putting him in here. But he had 1 year as the starter and a couple of games before that.
Yeah.
So it just was not a big enough sample size. Jake Fromm missed out on this one.
And
Um,
that's the one that when I opened up the outline, I saw that and backed out because, man, like I thought he was going to be one of the finalists. In all honesty,
I will
four
say
year starter.
if I was doing top six, Jake Fromm would have been that list. And if I didn't feel like I needed to include some of the dinosaurs on this list that I
It's
included,
fair.
maybe Jake Fromm would have made this list too. But he was another one that really hurt. And then finally, not finally, because there's another one after this. Kelly Stafford's favorite Georgia quarterback of all time is not on this list, and I am of course referring to Logan Gray.
Oh damn! I
Uh,
thought we were talking about Cox.
no, no,
Oh,
no. The story is Logan Gray. That's the official. Even though Cox would be a little bit funnier, but yeah, Logan Gray was of course only left off this list to give the other guys a fighting chance, because otherwise we wouldn't have a podcast. We would just say Logan Gray and then go home.
did you
Uh,
know? Why wild tangent? That's only going to take a second. Do you know that Joe Cox followed Lane Kiffin to LSU?
I did see that. Yeah,
Wild.
wild. What a story. All right. And then finally, Gunnar Stockton is not on this list, mainly because his career is not over yet at Georgia. But I wanted to bring his name up specifically before we got into this because I'm seeing a lot of Gunnar Stockton slander this offseason so far. I
Which
don't know if you're
is
seeing as much as
so
I am.
confusing.
It is like
I
the
could
people all of a
understand
sudden,
last offseason seeing it, in all
yeah,
honesty, right?
yeah. But there's people who are all of a sudden saying, "Oh, we should have let Puglisi start this season. We should let him start next season because he apparently looked real impressive in mop-up duty this year."
You
Uh,
mean the guy that threw almost as many interceptions as Gunner did?
yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's not, he was taking shots, he was in there in mop-up duty. I'm not
Right.
gonna Ryan Puglisi's going to be a very good quarterback.
I agree.
But why are we acting like Gunnar Stockton isn't the reason we won multiple games this season?
Right. Like this man got John Elway helicoptered a half dozen times in the Sugar Bowl, and you're complaining about his play?
Right. Like, I'm not saying he's perfect. He's not the best quarterback who ever lived. But, and the spoiler alert for my opinion on this, if you value just a straight up NFL arm over fire, passion, energy, and guts, then you don't understand what makes Georgia football specifically what it is.
Yeah.
That again, there's a couple of those talented NFL arms we're going to talk about tonight, and we might talk about how great they were and what good football players they are. I guarantee you, they're not going to be remembered as fondly as the guys on this list who gave their heart and soul for this program, because that's what Georgia football is all about.
And if we're being honest with each other, how many guys on the list that we're going to talk about won back-to-back SEC titles?
None of them actually.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I take that back. I take that back. One of them, one other one,
SEC
and we
titles?
back-to-back SEC titles.
Okay.
Yes,
All
it's
right.
not who you were thinking when you asked that question, but there is one person on here who's won multiple SEC titles.
Yeah. I mean, that in itself, and yes, we understand that Gunner did not play the first half of the SEC championship game in 2024. We understand.
He he was in charge of all of the offensive production, though. He was on the field for all of it.
Right. And I'll be honest, if Carson did not get hurt, Georgia probably loses that game. Texas
Y-
wins the SEC championship.
Yep,
So, like, I understand Gunner wasn't the first half quarterback, but he was the most important quarterback, except
yep.
for Carson did hand the ball off to win the game. Uh,
That is true. We can't deny that. Give the man the Heisman Trophy right now. He handed a football off.
okay, I will give him a little bit of flowers on that. He could have told the coaching staff he was not going back in the game with a
Right.
torn UCL, but that's the first and only time in his college career that he's put the team over himself.
Facts. Absolute facts. And he probably did it so that his transfer portal resume would look a little better. Let's be real.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into the guys who we're actually going to talk about tonight. I don't know if you want me to rapid fire them off or just go one at a time through each of the things that I've written about them.
All right. So let's rapid fire the names and then go back and
Okay.
dig into each one.
Sounds good. And I will say part of my reason for suggesting this was to just go through some of our fondest memories of these guys and have an excuse
Yeah.
to talk about how great they are. So the list is Matt Stafford, Aaron Murray, Buck Bellew, Fran Tarkenton, and Staquavius Fleming Bennett IV.
Was Buck the back-to-back SEC
Yes.
titles? Okay.
Buck was the back-to-back SEC titles.
Yeah. Okay. Ironically, so we have 2 copies of the Glory book about the 1980 team.
Mm.
Kelsey got them both at Goodwill, and both are signed by Lauren Smith. One was to Sonny Seiler, and one was to another guy who we can't read cursive well enough to. And it's 40-something-year-old cursive that's smudged a little bit. It's not like we're dumb millennials that can't read cursive. It's ancient. So we don't know who the other one's to, but we unintentionally bought 2 copies signed by Lauren Smith, specifically 2 donors, or the guy that owns Uga. And one is sitting next to me, is why I was bringing that up.
Makes sense. Yeah. So let's talk about Buck Bellew since we're stuck on him right now anyway. So Buck Bellew he spent all 4 years at Georgia, 1978 to 1981. Cumulatively, which these cumulative stats are going to be fun to look at because you're looking at different eras of college football entirely when you look at these stats. Some of the differences are crazy. He was 264 for 484 for 3,864 yards. That's cumulative over his whole career. He also rushed 265 times for 436 yards and had 42 total touchdowns, 32 passing, 10 rushing. We're not going to focus on the statistics a whole lot on this, I'm sure, but it's just something to rattle off and keep in mind.
So and this is going to get brought up later. I know that. To put his passing numbers into perspective. In 2022, Stetson Bennett was 310 for 454 for 4,128 yards in a single year.
Granted, I'm pretty sure you're talking about an SEC record for a single year, but I mean that is pretty. That's not 3,008. It's like the average number of passing on season days.
Oh, all right, hold on. We lost you for a second, and then everything you said in that like 10 seconds came through at the same time.
God.
Oh, and we're losing you again. Is it my internet?
I don't know. It could be.
Well, you were good for a second. Let me see.
Here.
All right, I can hear you through Zoom, but coming through OBS, it's
The recording.
We'll keep trying.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I was saying I'm pretty sure the Stetson stat is an SEC record, but point still kind of stands in terms of more in 1 year than Buck Bellew had in 4. So yeah, Buck Bellew, first 2-time first team All SEC quarterback. 2-time, as mentioned, SEC champion, Sugar Bowl champion, and of course national championship winning quarterback. So when it comes to moments for Buck Bellew, it's hard to find a ton out there because Herschel Walker was the offense for this team. But Run Lindsay, his 93-yard game-winning pass to beat Florida in 1980, obviously came straight to the front of my mind when talking about Buck Bellew. That is the big one for me, and then obviously just the fact that he was under center. He's a Valdosta, Georgia boy, so I have a certain fondness for him being from Valdosta as well.
So I am trying to, if possible, find. Okay, here we go. Oh, maybe not.
Uh-oh.
All right, hold on. Here we go. So I just looked up his stats of the national championship game in
That's the Sugar Bowl that year.
in the Sugar Bowl, and I am all right. Here we go. Uh, would you like to know what Georgia went for passing in the Sugar Bowl?
Okay, let me take a stab at it. I'm gonna guess the number was somewhere around 170 yards ish.
7.
Seven. Oh my gosh.
1 for 13 for 7 yards.
Gotcha. Yeah. So again, statistically, between this era and Herschel Walker, you're not gonna look at Buck Bellew and say, "Oh my goodness, he was dominant." But what you might do is look at the fact that he was the leader of the offense, taking the checks and making sure everything was in place that needed to be in place, and say, as the leader of this offense that won the national championship, he deserves a lot of flowers.
And it cannot go unsaid that without the play he made, Run Lindsey Run, Georgia doesn't go to the national championship that year.
That is very true.
So while he wasn't statistically dominant in an era of where next to no one passing the ball was statistically dominant, you can go back to the mid 2000s and find Heisman winning quarterbacks with less than 50% completion percentage. Like, quarterback position honestly did not matter a whole lot unless you had somebody like Peyton Manning until 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but when he was needed, he stepped up and made an iconic play that any Georgia fan ever, if you ask about Run Lindsey Run, they know who it is.
Yep.
They may not know anything else about the 1980 season other than Herschel Walker, national title, and Run Lindsey Run, but without Buck Bellew, two of those things don't happen.
Yep. Very true. So Buck Bellew has his own reasons to have flowers, hence why he is on this list. So, where should I go from here? You want to talk about the even older person on this list, or do you want to get one of the more recent guys?
So after I ask a question, we'll go older.
Okay.
It's a two-part question. One's legitimate, one's obviously a joke. I'll let you figure out which.
Okay.
Eric Zier not being on this list is a little because he owned all
Yeah.
of the passing stats before Aaron Murray took them, right?
Yeah, I think he did. I think that's true.
Okay. All right, so it's three-part. Two are sarcastic.
Yeah.
No Grayson Lambert with a 96% completion percentage game
Ah,
against South Carolina.
knew I was forgetting somebody. I knew it.
And then also one of the goats of just the Georgia program in general. How is Michael Bobo not
Yeah, of course.
the guy
I
who
have
was benched 3 times in the '96 season, the guy who was benched twice in the first SEC overtime game ever? How is he not on this list?
Yeah, you're right. I've brought shame to this entire podcast, not including Mike Bobo as one of the greatest Georgia quarterbacks of all time. You'll have to forgive me.
One of the most influential people in the program, I would argue,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because of his longevity between playing and coaching. But
Widely beloved
yeah,
at both, for sure.
but
How
no,
dare I put Matt
obviously two of
Stafford
those
over
were
Mike Bobo?
facetious.
Obviously. But yeah. Eric Zier just didn't win anything, unfortunately. Otherwise,
Yeah,
he
the era he was in was not known for a winning football team.
very much so, very much so. But he was good. I will grant you that. I probably should have honorable mentioned him if nothing else. So
Well, it's
that's
not
my
too
bad.
late. We're still recording.
It's not.
Honorable
That's
mention
true.
Eric
Honorable.
Zier.
Yep. All right. Up next, we're going even older. Fran Tarkenton, You may have heard of him if you're a Georgia fan of a certain age. He spent 3 seasons at the University of Georgia, 1958 through 1960. Didn't have the trophy success that Buck Bellew had, but he was 186 of 307 for 2,100 yards. As a 3-year starter at Georgia, uh, he threw 307 passes. What a time.
So I do have to ask, and this you probably don't know the answer to this question. I don't even know if the records exist to answer this question. But up into the 80s, freshmen could not play.
Mm.
So was he on the team in 57 but not eligible to play, and that's why he's only listed 58 to 60?
I couldn't tell you, because I didn't see that anywhere either. I did think
Okay.
about that, but I also just couldn't find it.
Okay. I
Um,
mean, I think we both know the answer to that, but it is a question worth asking.
yeah, for sure. All right. He also rushed 155 times for 219 yards, so, yard and a half per carry. 28 total touchdowns, 18 passing, 10 rushing. Based on the yards average, I'm assuming the rushing ones were the old Jalen Hurts special. He was also 2-time All-SEC quarterback, and he was the 1960 Orange Bowl champion. That's the 1960 season. I don't know if it was New Year's or just in the year 1960. But after that, this is what really makes him made the list. He had an 18-year NFL career, mostly with the Minnesota Vikings, so he spent a few years with the New York Giants. Was widely regarded as the NFL's first great dual threat quarterback. And he was also a 9-time Pro Bowler. Not that that matters anymore if Shadur Sanders can get in.
Okay. Up until I would argue 2020 it mattered.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And he won NFL MVP in 1975.
He won NFL titles, if I'm not mistaken, before it was a Super Bowl, correct?
I would have to look at that
All right,
again.
I will look
I
it up.
don't remember seeing any.
So I will say, um, the freshmen were not allowed to play until 1972. So I would
Okay.
assume that he was there from 57 to 60, but because he was ineligible, 57 just kind of got written off. Um,
That sounds about right. Yeah. Unfortunately, his Wikipedia has 2 sentences about his time at Georgia before moving on to his pro football career. So
that is very
I
disappointing.
it is. So I just don't know. I would. It looks though, based on the year he was born, uh, it looks as though he just spent the 3 years total at Georgia.
Um, ah, he left the Vikings the year before they played for an NFL championship.
Ah,
So he does not have any. But it's all right. The Vikings don't have any Super Bowls.
yeah. So fair enough. All
All
right.
right,
Yeah.
where are
Unfortunately,
we going next?
when it comes to some memorable moments, before I get to that, you can't really find highlights from 1960 college football, so I don't have any here.
Yeah,
But
understandable.
a remarkable career, if nothing else. All right.
And an
I guess
innovator.
we'll go chronologically. Yeah, for
Like
sure. A good old dual
if
threat quarterback.
I do wish that the College Football Hall of Fame would adopt the NFL Hall of Fame uh, system to an extent of an innovator wing, and then this kind type of like innovator player coach, that sort of thing. Because I mean, regardless of
Hmm.
if Fran is in the College Football Hall of Fame, he should be in as an innovator. Just like I think that
Yeah.
even though Mike Leach, they changed the rule to allow Mike Leach in, I still think that he should have been in regardless in the innovator wing. And if
Hmm.
it was the
Yeah.
NFL, it would have been without a doubt
Yeah.
already done.
College football also needs a walk-on wing.
That's fair. Well, I said that
Just
before.
throwing that out there.
Um, Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer is.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I saw a list of guys who should have been and were not first ballot Hall of Famers. Terrell Owens, not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Insanity.
Like a guy that legitimately you have an argument that he is one of, like, he might be one of the best wide receivers of all time. And if he's not number one, he's at worst like third or fourth.
Right.
And he wasn't. I just Chris Carter,
Yeah.
not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that, again insane.
The NFL did come out, and if y'all haven't seen this, side tangent, this happens when I drink bourbon while we record. The NFL did come out and say that if they find any personal bias in the reason you voted a certain way, you will be removed from the Hall of Fame voting committee.
Wow. College football should take a lesson regarding the playoff committee.
Yes, absolutely. I still whoever said it about having an educated fan be on the voting board.
Yeah.
I could you imagine somebody like me or you in the room with all the suits and 12 32-inch Vizios on a dresser and a €100 check from Arkansas just says something stupid and we just start cussing this dude out.
Right.
It's like I understand Wisconsin said you'll be their next athletic director. But they're not a quality win when they've only won 4 games in the past 2 seasons, Hunter. Sit your ass
Mm-hmm.
down.
Yep.
It would be hilarious. Live
Oh
stream
yeah.
those committee meetings.
But please do. I am all for more transparency in that room. All right. Let's go on chronologically then, and we will talk about good old Matthew Stafford. Spent 3 seasons at the University of Georgia. Started almost every game during that time. 564 for out of 987 for 7,331 yards. Plus 141 rushes for 213 yards, 57 total touchdowns, 51 passing, 6 rushing. I'm pretty sure all of those were against Auburn in 2006. 2008, he was a first-team All-American. He's a Sugar Bowl champion, number 1 draft pick in 2009 by the Detroit Lions, and then went on to become a 3-time Pro Bowler, this year's NFL MVP, and of course the Super Bowl 46 champion.
And boy, if the two things go differently in the NFC Championship game, he's probably a 2-time Super Bowl champion.
Absolutely. Got some memorable moments here. Feel free to rattle off your own if you don't feel like this covers it, because it doesn't. The game-winning touchdown on the first play of overtime against Alabama in 2007. That's one that I spent a lot of years watching between 2008 and 2021. Frat Stafford, just generally, is
Yeah,
something that I look at fondly.
especially after he won MVP. Those those posts have been popping up on Instagram recently, and
Hmm.
the him shoulder pressing a keg post is
Yes,
I mean
that's
he should
peak.
have won every NFL MVP until Josh Allen got in the league because
Facts.
mm,
And then I already mentioned this, making a top 5 Auburn team look like a D2 squad his freshman year, just tearing them up. And then tearing up the Hawaii defense in the Sugar Bowl is something I'm going to remember really well. I didn't put this in here, but the 2 throws to Massaquoi to beat Georgia Tech in 2006.
yep.
I'll
I,
always look at those.
um I mean I know he didn't necessarily score the touchdown, but just being involved in the Gator Stomp, every single player
Yes.
involved in that is remembered will be remembered by that singular play.
Yep. That is just how that goes. Who is calling me at Richmond County School? Okay, my job is calling me right now. Wonder why. It's almost 8:30 at night.
Do you need
Something
to
must be
answer
going
it?
on. No, no, it
Okay,
looks like it's an automated message, so I'll just listen to the voicemail.
I got you.
Actually, it's an alert. They sent it over text too, so I'll just read that later.
Is it that school's already canceled for Monday because of weather?
No, just that they're monitoring conditions.
Oh yeah,
which is a very
100%
useful.
worthy of a phone call and a text, is that they're paying
They're
attention.
monitoring the weather. Yep. All right.
Hey,
Anyway,
my high school let us go to school. It snowed outside for 3 hours in Paulding County, Georgia, and then they decided to send us home,
nice.
including all the people that drove themselves. My
Uh,
Mustang was in a ditch before I got home.
oh,
Like
I bet it
I,
was.
yeah, monitoring is probably good.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Matt Stafford, obviously a legend. Probably gonna end up being better remembered for his NFL career than his college career. But plenty of notable stuff to talk about with his time at Georgia too.
And I will say, you have to bring up when you're talking about Matt Stafford in the context of being a Georgia greatest of all time, two things. One of those is personal, one of those is actually relevant to the rest of the fan base. One, right after he got drafted, he was a bit of a douchebag. Um, I was at the G Day after he got drafted. He was on the sideline and refused to sign anything for anybody. Like I was one of hundreds of kids asking for an autograph, and he looked over and then turned around and walked away.
Hmm.
Just throw that out there. Still,
Bad form.
it took until like 3 years ago for me not to hate Matthew Stafford because of that.
Yeah. Well, I think too about how he said that if people came up to him and gave him a go dogs or whatever, that was kind of weird.
That was the
Uh,
second
um,
point of like you have to take those into consideration when you're talking about him in Georgia.
yeah, yeah. Just things to think about. Like, I don't want to sit here and I'll hold everything he's ever done up to the fire, but those things are significant. Uh,
And the personal story with me, like I realized, if I was a millionaire at 21, I've been a douchebag too. So you can't hold that to almost 40-year-old Matt Stafford.
right,
But as a kid who was just really getting into being a real Georgia fan, that that stuck around for a while, you know?
right.
So just personal almost a decade of not liking Matt Stafford for that reason. I don't dislike him anymore because like I said, I realize
Right.
yeah, but the not liking Georgia fans coming up to him and saying go dogs and that that definitely I think that hurts his position here.
I would say so as well. Speaking of personal feuds with quarterbacks, let's talk about Aaron Murray.
Have we gone fully into that on the podcast?
We did
Okay.
a whole breakdown. I don't know if we've mentioned the fact that he did a full 180 after that point and started praising Gunnar
Immediately.
Stockton because bullying works, guys. That's the lesson.
Hey, I say it all the time. These kids, especially in Savannah, would not be walking around with fox ears and tails on public areas if bullying was allowed a little bit
Yeah,
in high
just a little
school.
bit. Just
Right.
enough to enforce the norms. That's all you
Like
got to do.
nobody needs a 13 reasons why, right? But
Yeah,
like the fact that kids feel like they can identify as a cat in public, you should
they
have been
should be
bullied a
shamed a
little
little bit.
harder. That
All right. So anyway, Aaron Murray, bully a little harder. Uh,
it
spent
worked.
four. Yeah, it did. 4-year starter at Georgia, minus a couple games here or there. 2010 to 2013. Obviously, had to come in during that awful 2010 season, but it worked out okay for him every other year. 921 of 1,478 pass attempts for a record 13,166 yards throughout his career. Also had 286 rushes for 396 yards, 137 total touchdowns, which was an insane number. 121 passing, 16 rushing. I forgot how much we passed during that era of Georgia football.
And it
Um,
was he still has the career passing touchdowns record,
hmm
correct?
And yards, I think.
Okay. I thought so.
Yeah.
I know Will Rogers being at Mississippi State for 3 years put both of those in danger.
Yeah, but he didn't quite get there. So he still got both of them, which was actually what was going to come up next. And then two-time All SEC quarterback, I think second team, but still. And then When I think about Aaron Murray, other than thinking about him running out in the Georgia Dome and Power Ranger get up to lose to Boise State in a game I was at, I think about the game-winning touchdown pass to Justin Scott Wesley, which I guess I'll have to be more specific because
Fair.
there were two of them in 2013. One to LSU, and then one to beat number 6 South Carolina, who had beaten us 3 years in a row before that point.
The
And
reason that I
then,
still hate Steve Spurrier.
yep. And then he was also the first quarterback since Greg Talley in 1989 to beat Florida in consecutive seasons.
Wild.
Yeah.
Um, just Aaron Murray moments. That Florida game, and we all
Mm.
know which one I'm talking about. The
Yeah.
Florida game, what was it, 2012, of where it was a
Yeah. That
tight game.
the
Jarvis
throw to Malcolm
Jones,
Mitchell.
yeah, Jarvis Jones had
Jarvis.
just earned his top 10 of the Heisman voting in a matter of
Hmm.
60 minutes, and it still took Aaron Murray to Malcolm Mitchell to win that game.
Yeah. Another Valdosta boy, Malcolm Mitchell. Shout out.
You're not speaking very highly of the public schools there. Um,
Well, hey, he's an author now. He writes books. I have one of them.
I actually have a signed poster in the corner of his book poster, actually. Um,
Nice.
great guy now,
Yeah.
but
Terrific guy.
Aaron Murray. Uh, personally, we may have some qualms with how he handles things, but I think up into the Kirby era, he was without a doubt the greatest Georgia quarterback of all time.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue with that.
And
If we're talking specifically your career at Georgia, like NFL stuff doesn't
absolutely,
matter because we're talking about Georgia.
yeah. No, if we're just talking about your college career, I think Aaron Murray is unquestionably the greatest of all time. And then once the Kirby era starts, especially if you're just talking about Georgia, I think Jake Fromm encroaches on that. Ironically, Jake Fromm and Aaron Murray are very good friends. Jake Fromm
Mm,
took over the Punt and Pass podcast for Aaron Murray. Um, but you know, like it's neck and neck there. So there are some things about his career that you look back on and you can get a little frustrated about. Um,
hmm
but as far as what he did with what he had at the time, Georgia did not recruit wide receivers pretty much ever. They maybe
hmm
had one every 3 years that was a highly rated recruit. Um, no, like I said, I think without the Kirby era happening, he's head and shoulders above anybody else on the list.
Yeah. Fair enough. Unfortunately for Aaron Murray, we do have one Kirby era name to get to. And Jake Fromm, as you mentioned, easily could have been on this list if I wasn't trying to get a little era diversity in here. But we've got to talk about Stetson Fleming Bennett the fourth. um, 5 years spent at Georgia, 2017 when he wore number 22, which is a terrible number for a quarterback, and then came
Nor
back.
Ward 22 as Baker Mayfield cannot let
That's
that go unsaid.
yeah, yeah. That's in my memorable moments coming up, and then
See, that's
came
how y'all
back.
know I'm not lying when I said
You
that's
didn't
like the
read me on
third
that.
time I've spoiled a bullet because I do not have it pulled up.
Yeah, but you're right. These things have to come up, so I'm glad you're making sure they come up. Um, so yeah, he and then he came back with a much more reasonable number 13 for his 2019 to 2022. Ended his career 601 of 923 for 8,429 yards, 141 rushes as well for 530 yards, by far the best rushing average on this list. 80 total touchdowns, 66 passing, 14 rushing. All SEC in 2022, Burlsworth Trophy, Manning Award, one-time SEC champion. I don't count 2017 because I
Heisman
only count
finalist.
starting. Yeah, Heisman finalist, two-time national champion, drafted by the Los Angeles Rams, currently scheduled to take the torch from Matthew Stafford whenever Matthew Stafford decides to be done with his career. Uh, we're going to have a lot of moments to talk about with Stetson Bennett here. But the first one I'd have on the list is that he famously cooked the first team defense in 2017, impersonating Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and that's so if you go in, I don't know the exact handle, but Davin Bellamy now has like a film study podcast YouTube channel that he does. Great, teaches a lot of people a lot of things. Somebody asked him about that, and he said that like half of the defense after the Rose Bowl told him that he needs to transfer because he's got to play somewhere. He's too good to be the fourth string quarterback.
Hmm.
Um, but a
And he
couple of
did,
my
and almost won a junior college championship, and then said, "You know what? I want to be at Georgia."
yeah, and Kirby offered him a scholarship to come back,
Yep.
which I know a lot of us kind of rolled our eyes because we heard the Baker Mayfield story, and then Curry offered him a scholarship, and some of us, even I would say, including myself, after going into the 2021 playoffs, did not want Stetson Bennett to start the 2021 playoffs.
Yeah. See, I was mostly a Stetson defender, but I had my moments where I sat there and thought, man, maybe somebody else should be doing this. But I will say, if Stetson Bennett had not gotten that run in 2020, 21, and 22, if he had just been on the bench coming against Murray State or whatever, he would have been my Logan Gray instead of Logan Gray. Because I remember
That's
watching him
fair.
warm up in 17 wearing that number 22 jersey when we were about to play Mississippi State and thinking like something about that kid. Just he's just likable.
And so I want to get into a couple of my personal moments because,
Yeah.
growing up as poor as I did, the first Georgia game I went to was App State 2014. Like I
Mm.
didn't get to see Jake Fromm was the first quarterback that I ever got to see live play of these guys we've talked about. So, and we had season tickets for the Stetson years. So it was for the one that I will always remember in Sanford Stadium watching Stetson Bennett play was that 76-yard touchdown run against Auburn.
Hmm. I think I've
Be,
got that one on here. Yeah.
because I remember around the 50-yard line, everybody stood up and started high fiving. It was just once he got that open,
Hmm.
it was like, I don't care if you have a 5-star that ran a 10-200 in high school. He's not catching Stetson Bennett today.
Nope.
The celebration was almost over by the time he got in the end zone. And then that first touchdown against Tennessee in 2022,
Yep, that's
the
on here.
the call me maybe because that was in our corner of the end zone that our seats are in, and it was he crosses the plane and it was called out at the one or whatever, and then every fan is standing up, craning their necks, and then he jumps up, spikes the football, and holds the phone up, and it was like, oh no, that was a touchdown. There's no way it wasn't a touchdown, and it should have been targeting on top of a
Yeah.
touchdown, but like those two will forever stick in my mind. And then you have, I'm sure you're going to talk about him, but like all of the plays that he made in the playoffs to
Yes.
get to the two national championships. And I'm not going to spoil it,
Mm.
but like those two moments right there are personally my two favorites because I saw them in person and immediately every fan in the stadium knew what had happened before anything was called. And
Yeah.
we haven't seen that kind of play. Like this year, I will say, is the first year that we've kind of had that style of play
Hmm.
out of a quarterback. And it was still like you still question it at times.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like you did with Stetson, there were moments where you could have looked at the tape and said, "Oh, this guy was open. You could have thrown it deep to him," or "This guy was here and you could have done this." But at the end of the day, Stetson found the path to victory, where even when it looked like it wasn't there. I think about it's the way he took responsibility in that national championship game against Alabama
Yeah.
when that fumble, which could still be debated, happened, and a lot of lesser people would have either looked down or if you're Carson Beck laughed on the sideline, I guess, but and just
With the
said, okay,
quarterback
well,
that's on his sixth transfer.
yeah, and just said, that's it. But he went to the sideline and said, you know what, I'm not going to be the reason we lose this game. And then he came out and that something about free plays. I'm going to talk about the free play throw to A.D. Mitchell that on 2nd and 18
Mm.
to take the lead against Alabama. Me having a sleeping baby in the bed next to me, having to completely hold back everything I was feeling. But for somehow on free plays, he always turned into Tom Brady, and it's something I've been missing since he left. He always found the perfect throw, put it right in the breadbasket of the receiver on those free play moments when he could just cut it loose and say, "I don't care what happens." I've seen
I'll one up
quarterbacks,
the Tom Brady with a prime Aaron Rodgers who is at
yeah,
like 85% completion on free
yeah,
plays.
yeah. He just found it, and since then I've seen a quarterback throw back-to-back interceptions on free plays and throw interceptions on a majority of the free plays that he got. And it really made me appreciate how good Stetson Bennett was when he had nothing to lose. Um, and then the other throw to A.D. Mitchell against Ohio State to take the lead in the
And
Peach Bowl. Just
and the throw to Arian Smith to set up that throw.
yes, because yeah, you people think, oh, well, he was wide open because the defender tripped. You still got to get the ball there.
No, he was not wide open because the defender tripped. He was wide open because Arian Smith put that boy on two left-footed skates.
Yeah, imagine the skill it takes, by the way, to put the ball in a spot where Arian Smith can catch it.
Facts. We were all convinced after Stetson left that Arian Smith is the next AJ Green, Malcolm
Hmm.
Mitchell, and then turns out you actually have to throw it to where he can physically catch the football for him to be able to
Right.
catch the football. Um, and while you were talking, I did remember one more Stetson Bennett moment that let you know he was that guy. Mississippi State 2022.
Mm.
And it has nothing to do with a play that happened on the field. It's he gets a stinger on his forearm and he's just chilling like half in a jacket because it's cold in Starkville. And some medical staff intern, college age girl, has stars in her eyes rubbing his forearm.
Yes.
And that was the point where you're like, oh, he's different.
Yeah. I that there were two plays that season too. One in that game and one against South Carolina, where he makes some defender look like they want to quit football forever by just juking them right out of their trousers.
You're talking about the
Just
touchdown with Mississippi State, right?
yeah,
Like the
yeah, the
touchdown.
rushing
Yeah, okay.
touchdown and then one with South Carolina as well. They were almost the same run, just completely makes those defenders look silly. And then speaking of which, against Oregon, the touchdown pass to Lad McConkey, where he spent about 45 minutes being run down by defenders. Just eventually finding, I mean, Lad McConkey got open a lot, but just the patience, the looking, I was like, there's no way he might get out of this and get a couple of yards. There's no way he's getting out of this situation passing the ball, and he just finds Lad, and the rest is history. There were Joe Burrow comparisons after that game because we remember Joe Burrow doing that to our defense in 2019.
Yeah. And, I don't, and so a little inside the park baseball here, y'all. The reason that we went with quarterback first is we
Slam
decided on
dunk.
like Tuesday that we were going to do this. And it's the easiest one. Like Stetson's obviously the GOAT of
Yeah,
quarterbacks.
come on, y'all.
And, but it's still such a good time to go back and think about all these things. And I mean, Matt Stafford with all the different plays he made, which he the play before he did something insane would make you think, how is this guy a quarterback?
Mm,
Like he would take a 20-yard sack because he's 6'5", 260 pounds, and his diet is beer and pizza. And then he turns around and throws a 90-mile-an-hour fastball touchdown, and you're like, oh, okay, no, he is good at this.
right.
But Stetson was just different. And I know the titles help with our perception of Stetson. But I mean, when you have players who are known as some of the greatest in their position, specifically, like going to Davin, Bellamy, Roquan Smith, Lorenzo Carter, three guys just on that 2017 team that encouraged him to transfer so he could play somewhere else. That's saying something.
Yep.
Like one of those guys still in the NFL, one of them is just out of the NFL almost a decade later, which doesn't happen in the NFL. I mean, we all know the stats about players lasting like 2.4 years in the NFL.
Right.
And those guys said Stetson was good enough to go play somewhere else. So the answer is him, but
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
still
it
so
it
much fun.
it is. Yeah. And I get people will say Matthew Stafford because of the NFL career, but we're,
Should we
as
say the best
we
pro to ever
sort of
play at Georgia or the best Georgia quarterback?
yeah, that's it. Yeah. You could say maybe he's the best quarterback to ever play at Georgia. But the best Georgia quarterback is Stetson Bennett because we're concerned with what happened at the University of Georgia here.
And those same people will say that Tom Brady is the best quarterback to ever play in the NFL because of the number of wins and Super Bowl wins he has.
Yeah.
If quarterback wins is a stat, Stetson is head and shoulders the best quarterback to ever play at Georgia.
Yeah. And to me, like quarterback is really the only position you can do that with because you're in charge of so much. Like so much of it falls on you.
Right.
So yeah, wins can be a quarterback stat when you look at it and say, if Carson Beck, if Grayson Lambert, if anybody else
Who'd have
was the
thought
starting
Grayson Lambert
quarterback,
gets two mentions in the GOAT quarterback episode?
who'd have thought it? If any of those guys, if any of these other guys, Gunnar Stockton's a very similar kind of player to Stetson, which is why I hesitate saying that. Not like on the level of him, just similar styles.
Yeah.
But if anyone else had been the quarterback in those seasons, we don't see what we have now. And I'm including JT Daniels in that, as great as he played for Georgia when he was in there.
Yeah, JT Daniels' injuries, I think, are the reason that he never was able to live up to his freshman hype. And I know I've talked about this on the show before, but he got so injured so many times that his mechanics got messed up on his deep ball, which is why he had very little deep ball completions in
Mm-hmm.
late in 2020 and early in 2021. And I highly recommend. Oh, I can't even remember the podcast I listened to, but there was somebody that went deep into like, hey, he's locking out his front leg, which is changing his launch angle on his deep balls. It's making it more up in the air, which means the receiver has to come back to it. It's why we're not getting any long ball touchdowns. It's a whole big thing. But if we're gonna throw it back on Southern Cal, if they had a team that was worth a crap, JT Daniels might have been a good quarterback.
Yep. Valid.
Um, but yeah, so we're gonna do these at some regular interval. I'm not sure what that interval is right now. We're still trying to finalize our off-season plans, but we enjoyed going back and thinking about all these different things, and hope that you guys did as well. There's still, by the time you listen to this, there's 2 days to vote for us or nominate us in Connect Savannah's Best Podcast in Savannah. Voting starts sometime in February. We will definitely put it out every single day if we get through the nomination phase. Um, but if you want to follow all of that, see what we're doing when we're doing it, at nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at finderpod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, just look us up and you will find us there. And most importantly, always remember there is nothing finer in the land.
And a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.